It's time for us to bury the murder hip hop image of Chicago. Many of us, including myself, has been fooled, we have been deceived, we have been misinformed about the true image, about the true culture of Chicago. If you're listening to my voice, I just want to say, do not be fooled, do not be deceived. Chicago is not the type of city that you may think it is. It's not the type of city that the hip hop culture describe as it is. It's not the type of city that the media wants you to think it is. Chicago is a world-class city. Chicago is a global city. Chicago is not only one of the greatest cities in America, it is one of the greatest cities on this planet. You have Garrett's Popcorn. You got Deep Dish Pizza. Have you ever been to Giordano's? You got the Riverwalk. You got urban kayaking. You got a huge Nike store where you can buy a whole bunch of fancy shoes and a whole bunch of fancy clothes. And it's 3 stories tall off Michigan Avenue. Those are just some of the things. I didn't even name all of the things. Those are just some of the things that the city has to offer. I was once told that when it comes to food, Chicago is the capital. Any type of food that you want to eat, whether it's Italian, whether it's Chinese, whether it's French, any type of food that you want to eat, you get it in Chicago. And the good thing about it, it tastes just, the food over there tastes just as good as that traditional culture. For example, if you're looking for some Italian food, they got real authentic Italian restaurants that will make you think the food you're eating is in Italy. If you want some Chinese food, they got real authentic Chinese restaurants that will make you think you're eating the food in China. The same with Mediterranean food. The same with Caribbean food. Chicago is a world-class city. It's not the type of city where people just wake up and they just start shooting each other. It's not the type of city where people are just looking to kill each other every day. It's not that type of city at all. Chicago is a world-class city. Therefore, the football team, Chicago Fire, should be playing like a world-class team. You know, Chicago is one of those cities where the people have pride, and the people really do care about the image and the culture of their team. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what sport specifically it is. If it's a national team that represents Chicago, like Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears, Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox, if it's a national team that represents the city of Chicago, the people are paying attention to the team. The real problem with Chicago is that the city is too segregated. And, you know, I understand to a certain extent why people want to be segregated, because you got to be able to build a civilization with like-minded individuals. Too much diversity is not always a good thing. You know, in order for you to really build a legitimate economy the way you want it to be built, you gotta have a good number of like-minded individuals in order to build that economy. If you have too many people who have different ideologies, then everybody's gonna have their own agenda, and you won't be able to grow and build that economy like the way you want it to be built. So I understand, you know, the racial and the ethnic segregation that's in the city. However, there comes a point in time where you have to put your segregated differences to the side for the betterment of the whole society. Does that mean you have to be best friends with each other every day? No. Does that mean you have to eat the same type of food and listen to the same type of music every day? No. Well, when you're living in a city that's being portrayed as a evil, demonic city, that's the time where people from each community, from each ethnic community, have to rise up and say, enough, no more. We see how you people in the media are portraying us as evil, demonic killers. We see how you rappers are painting a bad image on our city, that when you leave our city, you're not being a good ambassador. You focus more on the negative than the positive. And we're not gonna take that anymore. Sports is a good way to unify people. Sports is a good I can't think of the word. Sports is like a good platform, if I'm using the correct word. If I'm using the wrong word, you can correct me in the comment section. But I believe that sports is like a good platform to bring people together. For example, you'll have a black person living like in the south side of the city. They're a Bears fan. You have a white person living in the north side of the city. He's also a Bears fan. And you have a Jamaican or a Hispanic man living on the west side. He too is also a Bears fan. All three of these men, the black, white, and Hispanic man, all three of them are Bears fans. At the same time, however, they are more comfortable being in their neighborhoods, being around their own people, eating their own food, speaking their own type of language. However, when Sunday afternoon come around and the Chicago Bears are playing the arch rival Green Bay Packers, these three season ticket holders put all of their ethnic differences aside just so they can go watch the Chicago Bears on Sunday afternoon. And during that 2 hour to 3 hour span at Soldier Field, assuming that they're not tailgating, during this 2 hour to 3 hour span at Soldier Field, these three season ticket holders with ethnic differences are all sitting inside the stadium at Soldier Field cheering for their team, which is the Chicago Bears. They don't care if that person they don't care if the other fan eats a different type of food or listen to a different type of music. They're just happy to be in the same stadium rooting for their favorite team, which is the Chicago Bears. Sports having the ability to bring different communities together for a greater good is where the MLS could come in. The MLS can do a better job of cleaning up the image. The MLS can do a better job of cleaning up the false perceived image of Chicago than any other league. Why? It's because soccer is a global sport. NFL is not a global sport. Basketball, to a certain degree, is not as global as soccer. Baseball is not a global sport. If not all countries in this globe, I would have to say at least 95% of the countries in this world is familiar with soccer. Because with soccer, all you need is a ball and an open field to play the game. You don't have to find a parking lot that has a basketball goal and a basketball net. You don't really have to worry about severe injuries when you're playing backyard soccer. Does it get aggressive at times? Yeah, but most of the time you're just kicking the ball back and forth, having a good leisure time. Most countries are more familiar with soccer than basketball. So when it comes to cleaning up a false perceived image of a city, the MLS can be at the forefront. The MLS can be the face of this change. And this is why it's very important for the Chicago Fire Football Club to be a serious contender. You know, in my last monologue, I stated there are certain cities that the MLS needs to make the playoff. Not only because it will help with the brand of the MLS, not only because of television and media markets, but because of the demographics, because of the large population of people that live in the specific cities, the particular cities. And I said it was New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago. New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, those are the three largest populations in the country. Then you add Miami to the mix. These four cities are the most ethnically, racially diverse cities in the country. Chicago Fire can really build a good, strong community in that city because, you know, MLS culture is different from NFL culture. Are there rivalries? Yes, but it's not rivalries to the point where people are literally hating each other because they're cheering for another team. It's in MLS, it's more like friendly rivalries. I mean, yeah, you cheer and you scream for your favorite team, and maybe you'll trash talk the other team on social media, but I don't really see much of that on MLS Twitter. I don't really see opposing fans just talking trash about each other like I do on NBA Twitter or NFL Twitter. Like, at the end of the day, when it comes to MLS culture, like, it's family. It's friendly and it's family. And even if somebody catches you saying something wrong about the sport, like if you're speaking something wrong about the sport out of ignorance, they will correct you in a friendly way. It's not like NFL, NBA, social media where you'll get cussed out. That same friendly, loving culture that we see, or that I see on MLS social media and amongst the MLS community, that is what's going to help clean the false perceived image of Chicago. Hip hop culture is not going to clean up the image of Chicago. The NBA, even though they state that they're at the forefront of cleaning up the community of inner cities in America, NBA is not the answer. Because if you're the NBA, it just looks hypocritical for you to say that you're the professional sports league that's at the forefront of cleaning up these inner cities when you have rappers sitting courtside at these games who profit off of the likeness of drug abusers. When you have rappers who are profiting off of the negative stereotypes of inner city people. When you have rappers sitting courtside at your games who are profiting off of the murders of people from these inner cities. Rappers who literally make music where they're bragging about how many people they've killed, how many people they've robbed. They're bragging about this in their music, and you see them sitting courtside at these NBA games. It just looks like an oxymoron, NBA. So that's why I think the MLS can do a better job, because the MLS is more family oriented. It just seems more family oriented. It just seems more friendly oriented. It's just, you can, even if you're not at an MLS game, you can feel the love from the fans just by watching the game. This is why it's very imperative for Chicago Fire FC to return back to the days of 2017, where it was relevant, where it was a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. And how was Chicago Fire? How was the Chicago Fire just a relevant, dominant team in 2017? What was it that made them so good? They had shooters. They had guys who could score. Remember Nemanja Nikolic? Remember David Ackham? Nemanja Nikolic, he was probably the Nikola Jokic of MLS in 2017. I mean, going back and just doing research on the games of 2017, every time I clicked on a game that was played by the Fire in 2017, I saw Nemanja's name almost like every game. That he scored at least one goal almost every game. He scored at least one goal. The good, aggressive, star power play of Nemanja Nikolic was why Chicago Fire was really good. And Nikolic's spirit, his good play, is spread amongst the other players on the team. So the question is, does Chicago in 2022, does Chicago have their own version of Nemanja Nikolic currently on the team? And if not, is somebody willing to rise up and be that man? To be the face of not only this team, but the face of the city? Who is currently on that Chicago Fire roster that is willing to pick up the torch and to lead the city? Who is currently on that team who is willing to pick up the torch and to not only be the face of Chicago Fire, but to be the face of the city of Chicago? Who is willing to be at the forefront to bring back the positive image of the city of Chicago? Now, of course, your play on the field has to be good, because people are not going to rally behind a player who is not playing good. This is why the Fire needs to find their Nemanja Nikolic. If he's currently not on the team right now, they have to go find him. We have a World Cup coming up in 2026. And despite the Fire not having a soccer-specific stadium, I do believe that Chicago is still a candidate to be one of the cities to host the World Cup. Why? Because it's a world-class city. So whether or not they have a soccer-specific stadium, I still believe that Chicago has a good chance of hosting it, of being one of the cities to host it, one of those 16 cities to host it. However, it's time to end the negative, false perception that Chicago is a demonic city. It's time to clean up that image. And because we have a World Cup coming up in 2026, Chicago Fire FC can be the team that leads the change. But how that change will happen, you have to find, there has to be a reincarnation of Nemanja Nikolic. You have to find your Nikola Jokic, a guy who's aggressive, a guy who's willing to score, a guy who's willing to pick up that mantle, pick up that torch, and be the face of the soccer community in Chicago. Because I strongly believe that the soccer community has more power than the NFL, the NBA, and the MLB community to clean up the image of Chicago. However, this is not going to happen without you having a Nemanja Nikolic type of player that is not only willing to be the leader on the soccer field, but is willing to be the Mahatma Gandhi of Chicago. Chicago Fire. The MLS world is going to be paying attention to you this Saturday. Why? It's because you're going against Kansas City. Kansas City is a top 5 team in the Western Conference. The Western Conference in Major League Soccer is far more tougher than the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. The Western Conference is like a gauntlet. It's just every week is a gauntlet in the Western Conference in the MLS. Kansas City is Kansas City is not only one of the top teams in the Western Conference, they're one of the top teams in the MLS. But in my personal belief, Kansas City is not supposed to be the face of the Midwest when it comes to American soccer. Neither is it supposed to be Colorado or Salt Lake City or Minnesota. Chicago, you're supposed to be the face of the Midwest. But in reality, right now, you're not. You're playing against Kansas City this Saturday. This game is very important. I know it's only week 4. I know it's too early, but Chicago, this is your chance. This is your opportunity to put the MLS on notice. This is your opportunity to say, we're no longer a pushover. This is your opportunity to say, teams are no longer going to come to our city. They're not going to come to Soldier Field and just get an easy 3 points. This will be your time to tell them that when you come to Soldier Field, you got to earn that 3 points. And we're going to fight and defend our Soldier Field for every second within those 90 minutes to make sure you don't get those 3 points. Is Kansas City the more superior team? On paper, they are. But when you step on that field, the score is 0-0. This Saturday, this will be your time to put the MLS world on notice that this is a new Chicago Fire team and that we are picking up the mantle. We are going to be the face of Chicago. We are going to clean the negative perception that's within our city because we are the soldiers of Chicago.
I dedicated over 10,000 hours, and I never listened to the doubters. I had to cut out all the BS, hit the refresh, now feel so empowered. I dedicated over 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours. I dedicated over 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours.